Happy New Year. This year, we're going to kick off by discussing something that perhaps is a little bit depressing, but I think it's important to discuss, and that's death and mourning people that are close to you. You know, you spend your life, when you're a child up to late teens or early adulthood, 20 to 25. If you're lucky, you haven't been exposed to death at all. And, who wants to discuss or teach children about their mortality and scare them and suck the joy out of childhood, right? So you tend to go through those 16 years teaching them everything except how to handle the death of a loved one. There's an incredible book called The Denial of Death by, I think it's Ernest Becker. I think that's how you pronounce his name. It's a Pulitzer Prize winning book. Social anthropologist that really explores our relationship with death. And if I were to summarize the book, to be honest, you shouldn't summarize this book. It's a Pulitzer Prize winning book that has so much depth, and he really touches on, as an anthropologist, on so many ways that people deal with death. But if I were to summarize up, it really talks about how we are motivated by death. We are all in the background thinking about our mortality, and that shapes our actions going forward. We want to leave a legacy because of death. We want to become great artists because we want to be remembered after life. We want to leave a financial legacy so that those our predecessors, or not predecessors, our successors, benefit from our work, and our life isn't in vain. We all want to be remembered after death to some degree. I mean, it would be pretty odd if you just want to just decay and be left in the past. A lot of people lean towards religion because of death. So many things. But we can all agree that, at least in Western cultures, our relationship with death is very much driven by just swiping it underneath the carpet. We don't want to discuss it. No one wants to discuss how they want to be buried, what their funeral process is, which is why there's so many funerals that are organized lastminute.com, and we're left kind of guessing what our loved ones wanted when they die. And, you go and you speak to someone about your own death, and they go, oh, no, please, like, don't even say that. I don't want to even think about you not being on the earth. And we just seem to always avoid it. And for me, I'm not unique, but I'll say this. I was exposed to my first big loss in terms of my nuclear family with the loss of my mother when I was 30. So that would have been about 7 years ago, or 7.5 years ago, should we say. I lost her to lung cancer. And it was very sporadical, all of a sudden, my mum started to get a really aggressive cough. Then we found ourselves in the doctors, and the doctor said, hey, it's stage 4, and she's got somewhere between 3 to 6 months to live, and there's nothing we can do about it. And, we went through the different phases of, my mum had accepted it. She was very strong and very realistic, but myself, I really thought we could fight it. I kind of forced her to go to chemo and all this type of stuff. But long story short, she died after about 3.5 months of that same diagnosis session that we had in hospital. And what I found was that after my mum died, I became very, very bitter. She was a single mum. She was pretty much, other than my daughter, the only direct family that I had here in the UK I lived with her up to the age of 30. And we had so many hopes and dreams together, mummy's boys, etc., etc. And the loss of her was almost like, say, the loss of a life partner, should we say. However healthy or unhealthy you want to deem that, it's completely up to you. But to me, it was like losing a lung. And I remember everyone around me just they really wanted to help. They really wanted to, did they want to help? I don't know. I went through different phases, but at least at the very beginning, they really wanted to comfort me. That's the word. They wanted to comfort me. But in hindsight, I understand that they were just grossly underprepared to support someone with loss, because at the end of the day, they were also 30. Some of them were 29, some of them were younger. And even till today, they haven't lost anyone in the nuclear family. To today, now that I've had such an incredible loss in my life, I'm completely petrified for them, because one thing is seeing a loved one or a friend lose someone who is so important to them, and another thing is it actually just happening in your camp. Death is something that we're all gonna face in life, and losing people that we love, unless we're the first ones to go, it's part of life, and we should have some level of understanding on how to support people around us. And that's not taught in primary school. It's not taught in college. We often just avoid the conversation. And I wanted to share with you a couple of videos that I think really encapsulate my personal experience with death. And hopefully you can take something away from this, and maybe the best time to prepare for the loss of a loved one is not when it's happening in real time. It's when everything's fine, to really think about how you're going to approach it, how to help people, and just be mentally prepared for that process when you might get a phone call from a loved one. As life progresses, as you get to 30s, 40s, this is going to start happening in our community. And people that become that seem so permanent in life, you realize that they're not. And then we get closer to this idea that it's going to be our time one day, because those permanent fixtures are now leaving the earth. I start thinking about, even at a celebrity level, you start seeing celebrities actors that you've seen time and time again on the screen throughout your whole life, your whole childhood. And all of a sudden you're like, wow, this actor's gone. And oh my God, Brad Pitt is now 60 something. Goodness me, I remember when he was so young. And Robert De Niro and Al Pacino, they're looking very, very frail. And these are just characters that we've seen on the screen for our whole lives. And it's just a stark reminder that we're getting older, which is a great thing. It's great to get older. It's amazing to live. It's just a sign that we've been fortunate to be on earth long enough. But we're going to get to that precipice where people are going to start leaving us, and it'll be our own people as well. And then when our own people start leaving, then we know that soon it's going to be our time too. So is it a good time? When do you prepare for such a thing? Do you prepare for it once it's happening? Or should we be having healthy conversations, at least with ourselves, to understand, how do we manage this? How do we help people? So I think let's really look into the emotions behind it. And there's a comedian called Dean Cole that a friend of mine shared. One of these friends that I said, wanted to comfort me, he didn't necessarily understand what to do. But then he actually sent me this comedian and said, hey, look, I watched this comedian and he reminded me of you. So I'm going to share what he says. And it's about the loss of his mother.
Thing I have, because I'm the only child and it's just her. I ain't have no father and no brothers and sisters and shit. It's just her, and I lost her. And I lost her a year to this day. She died last year this day. And I said to myself, I want her name to ring, and I want her to be out here and live through me. But hold on. That shit devastated me, and I've been fucked up ever since. But when I come out here and I get love from y'all, it'd be good. But I know it's other people out there going through the same thing, man. They told me it's a club called the 50 Club. And motherfuckers close to 50 or at 50, we lose our parents, because our parents is like 70 and 80 and shit. And there's a lot of people going through the same fucking thing that I'm going through right now. I'm not normal, motherfucker, I promise you. And I'm trying to live normal every fucking day. I'm trying to find a new normal in this fucking world. But when you got people like that, and I know y'all out there, I know you lost your parents, and I'm here to tell you, man, when you ain't alone, I'm here for you as long as everybody else is too. And anybody that you see who lost their parents, you embrace them. Quit trying to make them still be normal as fuck. They not. They hurt and they crushed and they lost, just like me.
And yeah, that's true. He calls it the 50 Club. So you're lucky if you get to 50 and your parents are still alive. For me, it happened when I was 30 and my mom died at 65, forgive me. And you're meant to just get over it. Oh, we all lose our parents. And it's almost like, tick, you lost your parent. And we're not all as attached to our parents, as others. And that's the thing. Right. Usually in life, you start growing pubic hair at 13. Your voice gets deep as well at 13. You get your first job when you're 18 or 19 or 17. Tend to have your child somewhere between 20s and 20s and 40, should we say. That's kind of the acceptable age. There's always a range or something where each milestone is kind of aligned to a timeline, but death isn't. Death can happen at any moment. You can lose a parent, you can lose a partner, and who's to dictate how quickly you get over that? Something that I see a lot is people go, someone in there, someone could be 55 and say, hey, I just lost my mum. And then the person goes, oh, I'm so sorry to hear that, blah, 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 blah. How old was the person? and they go, oh, she was 85 or she was 90. And they go, oh, well, that's great. Well, they lived a great life. Okay, cheers, pat on the back. And then they just sort off. And I say, you know, your parents could be 100, 150. If that bond is so strong, it's going to hurt. And I think one thing we need to understand is, I mean, Marcus Aurelius in Meditations, which is another great book, he speaks about mourning and not indulging in the process of mourning because you just ended up looking silly and it's foolish. I'm paraphrasing here, by the way. And there is a balance. We can't just stay in the mourning mode forever. But at the same time, the opposite extreme of that is treating death like a transaction and then pretending like the impact of death is very short term and that loss doesn't change your way of being. And we act like ignoring it or just rushing the person to get to a normality, that once they display normality, things are normal again and everything's fine. And that's not the case. And I'm not advocating that we should all, every single person that loses someone, you have to stretch yourself thin and support everyone. Unfortunately, in life, we don't have that level of scale with the way we treat relationships, but you can't serve 1,000 people. You know, I get it. We have limited amount of time and we also have our own things as we get older. We have kids to take care of, mortgages to pay, etc., etc. But at the very least, when you have a nuclear space of friends or whatever, you got to support them. You got to be conscious of this. At the very least, be conscious. And I think the first step is just acknowledging the impact that loss has. And it's not just a mother. There's people that lose kids. There's people that have miscarriages. Death is all around us. And thinking that not speaking about it is going to make everything okay is definitely not a way to approach it. Because we're all going to face that. And you can get lost in the bitterness when your social circle doesn't support you adequately, or at the very least understand what you're going through. And you can feel very, very lonely. And then you go through this chasm of, do I even know what being on earth is like now? You know, what is my purpose? What's the point of it all? So many feelings go your way and you could be misinterpreted as almost having apathy going forward because you don't celebrate things in the same way. You're not as illusioned in your social circle as you used to be. And I just think that if we invested a bit more time trying to understand and empathizing with what people go through, we may be better at supporting our community. And I think the first thing, which is very important about this clip, is just being able to acknowledge the impact of grief, the impact of loss, and also understand that just because you're older, there are people that are 60 or hitting 60 and they have both parents alive or they've got one parent alive. They haven't completely lost all their parents. They haven't been that exposed to death. Life has dealt them a great set of cards. And there's younger people that have crazy experience with death and they understand it better than the elders. This is not something that's age specific. And it impacts us all in different ways. But ignoring it and treating it as the taboo subject is not the best way to go about it. And I thought I wanted to show. So that's Dion Cole. And yeah, it's very hard for me to watch that without crying. But I think the key takeaway here is understand that it's okay to not be okay and acknowledge the impact. Don't overindulge in it, but acknowledge it. Now I'm going to go over to this video that I found by an actor. I believe his name is Rob Delaney. I'll correct myself in a bit. Yes, Rob Delaney. So Rob Delaney, you may or may not recognize this character. He's known for his role in Deadpool and Deadpool 2, and I believe Deadpool and Wolverine. He's basically the superhero that has no powers, and he's just a very nice person. He became very viral after that role. And what I didn't know is that in 2018, Rob Delaney actually lost one of his children. He lost his son. He lost his son to an illness, and he wrote a book about it. And here in this clip, unfortunately, I've had to skip, for the sake of time, I've had to skip the description that he has of his son. He's asked, look, tell us a bit about your son. But now he pivots into a book that he's written where he talks about the journey of losing his son and that recovery period. And here he sheds a bit of light on exactly how you should go about supporting someone who's lost a loved one. And to be honest, when I heard this, it was like someone had gone into my soul and taken out the words. And I love his approach to what he's about to say. So let's press play on it.
very angry, that will hurt people and will parcel out some of the pain that my family feels. Right. So I really was starting like, you here comes this book for you scumbags who don't know what my family's been through. But the fact is our love for him and what a wonderful boy he was just took over. And so something happened, and the book is just really about love, despite my best efforts to make it an angry tome. It's actually a lot of love.
That taps into the title, you know.
And that's a great point. You get consumed by anger, and you get even more angry when people ignore the impact of it all, and they're just in their la la land, just talking a load of crap and talking about the trivial things of life. And there you have your heart that's been ripped out of your chest. I can relate to that. Just wanted to shine a bit of light on that, the importance of what you just said.
From that wonderful Juliana Hatfield song, a heart that hurts is a heart that works.
Yeah.
That's being alive, right?
Yeah, so that's a manifesto of mine now. A heart that hurts is a heart that works. Because if you're born on planet Earth, you're going to experience pain. There's no way around it. And, you know, our family got more of it than we might have anticipated earlier on. And it's been terrible and painful, you know, but there's been a lot of love weaved into it too.
You talk about, you know, how best to support someone who's lost a loved one. I mean, what would you say is the biggest thing that you've been able to learn?
Well, I now know that if someone loses somebody close to them, I'm not going to be like, is there anything I can do? I'm just going to go over to their house, duplicate one of their keys when they're napping, and then come in and do their laundry, you know, force them to go out and take a walk while I watch one of their kids or whatever. It's really way more about actions than words.
That's right. And I mean, I know that having supportive friends meant a lot to you during that time. And actually, Dwayne reached out to you, I think, because you guys had worked together.
Well, we hadn't at this point, but yeah, he sent me a lovely tweet after Henry died, which he didn't have to do, you know, and that was very sweet and made me feel great. Yeah, and then a couple of years later, I did Hobbs and Shaw.
So yeah, you know, when you hear what he's saying, he says the best way to support someone. That often people come and say, how can I help? Is there anything I can do or whatever? And, you know, you're just there in your pain and you're just like, come on, I'm not here to educate you on how to support me or what to say or whatever. I don't even want to talk about my pain. You couldn't possibly understand what I'm going through. That's the way you feel. And they'll just go, all right, I'll just give him a space, and they just disappear. And then you got other characters that they'll just go, okay. And they just turn up the next day and they'll just do something. They'll just have a chat with you. Then they'll turn up the next day. And the next day, or you know, in intervals of 2 days, and they'll start doing random things. And you don't necessarily want them around, but they just keep the wheels turning. And somehow there's this magic where you just feel better. So why am I close to Andrew? I mean, I'm close to Andrew for so many reasons, but Andrew really showed the truth of his friendship. I remember, I think it was maybe 1 month after my mum died, he just rocked up to my house in his car. I think it was a convertible car, and I had a laugh at his expense and all this type of stuff. And then he said, right, let's go see your mum. And, you know, completely unsolicited, let's go see your mum. He helped me clean the grave. He helped me put, because, you know, at the very beginning here in the UK, they just dump a load of soil and there's bits of brick, there's a bits of crap, and that just breaks your heart because you're like, my queen's covered in the worst type of dirt. I just wanted it to be beautiful. So up to those kind of minute things hurt you, right? And then, you know, where they're picking out all this debris out of my mum's kind of grave, completely futile, but it just helps. And it's just an activity. And you feel like you've got someone who's helped you get through or do something, you know, during your time of pain. You know, another friend of mine, well, he didn't even start off as a friend. Everything started breaking around my house after my mum died. And I got this builder through a friend of a friend. Shout out to Marcel. And, you know, paid him to sort out my shower, all this type of stuff. And then after he finished the job, he just kept coming back to my house. Generally would come to my house, make himself a cup of tea, talk about random stuff, encourage me to like throw stuff away, to get myself going. And he just relentlessly just came constantly. And it was without permission. It's crazy, but all of that just really helped me continue. At the time, I was very fortunate. I I had a partner as well, and she was very, very important to me, you know, continuing going and not feeling as lonely as maybe I felt. And the same thing with, you know, the mother of my child and my child as well. But just being able to have people outside of that nuclear family, that feeling that they cared and they cared about the loss of my mom, or they at least just got me going, that had incredible impact. And it went miles ahead of people that were very equally close to me asking, hey, are you okay? Is there anything I can do? It just felt so empty and so artificial. And that was hard to deal with. I don't know whether this episode is... I really hope that this episode can just open your eyes a little bit as an audience. I don't have all the answers on how to support someone who's grieving or has lost someone that's close. But if there's anything you can take away from this episode, it's two things. You can never overestimate the impact of loss and mourning. In fact, I would recommend that you overestimate rather than underestimate it if you truly care about that person. And I think the second thing is there's no formula in supporting someone that is grieving a loss, but something is being present, and that constant effort in action, grounded in action, like Rob Delaney says, is the highest and the most authentic level of love that you can show, because words are truly empty. And if anything, they can sometimes even just take that person in an abyss of loneliness. So I hope this episode's fruitful to you guys. If you're going through a moment of loss, know that you are not alone, that you will recover. Your feelings matter. They won't completely disappear, but you'll get better at coping with them. Like, subscribe, let me know if this type of content is of any use, if it's touched you, or whether you disagree, or whether you have other coping mechanisms that may have helped you as well. Thank you so much for listening, and look forward to sharing more experiences with you in 2026. Like and subscribe. Take care.